大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello and welcome to LupinRecap vs. PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Mokamasi. With me is my lovely co-host, Fafnir Masamune.
Chaos, chaos! Hello, it's me, Fefner, and I've had the world revolving stuck in my head all day. How's it going? And that's just a gateway to having, like, every Jevil quote in your head as well.
And today, we're going to talk about episode 25 of Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger. But first, that number is divisible by 5, so it's time for another round of rankings.
Alright, so this one will probably be different.
Probably. You never know with us. So, since we're about a little under halfway through the show at this point, instead of talking about just the past 5 episodes like I normally do, I'm going to also try and summarize each character a bit more as I go through them. But I'll be counting up this time. I normally count down. I'm going to start at the bottom with, hold your breath, Sakuya.
Gasp.
Back where he fucking belongs.
Don't be mean.
I know. And that's sort of the thing with Sakuya. That's the main thing about him, is that he is a mostly good character who I really enjoy watching, and then he'll start talking to Umika and I want to rip my ears off. And it's really just a testament to how one bad trait, one bad trope can really bring down an entire character. Thankfully not an entire show, but you know what? They came closer than they really had any right to. Next up at number 6 is Toma.
Wow, only number 6, huh?
Yeah, I only bumped him up 1. I said this a couple of times, but I really like Toma at first. He's had a really strong start. But as the show is going on, I sort of realized what role he's playing.
He's the Jagan.
Right. But he is the character who already had all of his character growth before the show.
And we're just being filled in on it.
Yeah. He's the Iroh of this show. All his shit happened off screen, and we're just dealing with it now.
As if you would put Iroh so low in your rankings if we were doing Avatar.
See, that's the thing. I feel bad comparing him to Iroh, because, comparing anyone to Iroh is just a mistake.
Look, until Tuma has a scene where he's in jail, and then he just starts doing push-ups, and then just shirtlessly continues training for months until he breaks out himself.
That could happen, though. Toma's willing to get thrown in jail.
God, just one episode where you have Jack Toma beating up the Pat Rangers.
I was going to go for mourning at the grave of his loved one, but that will probably happen before the end of the show also.
That one's more likely, yeah.
It probably won't have the same gut punch because we already know to what extent Toma's hung up.
What is the cooking equivalent of Little Soldier Boy?
You
don't
Little
have
Chef
to
Boy.
Okay. I figured it would be a meal, like he'd just be cooking there at the grave.
Sobbing hysterically. Anyways, moving up to number 5, fell down quite a bit. I have Keiichiro at number 5. This might be a little harsh, but I do think that he's taken more of a backseat these past 5 episodes. Barring this, he does a lot this episode, but it's not particularly character-driven. It's just cool. He just does a cool thing.
Yeah.
The fact that I like Keiichiro as much as I do was kind of a surprise to me. When I first started watching this show, I thought he was just going to be obnoxious and hateful and mean.
Nope. Turns out he's pretty good.
He is such a good boy. He would be Ark. It's the really angry version of Ark if it were one of our tabletop campaigns. I realize that reference has, no audience.
It's the audience of everybody creating this podcast and the only person watching it.
Yeah. But I've really become to appreciate just what a good, like, classic hero Keiichiro is to offset all the anti-heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, the Pat Rangers as a whole are more classically heroic than the Lupin Rangers. But even then, like, Sakia has a bit of anti-heroic qualities for him in how he is, like, a goof, not a layabout, but, like, he doesn't take things as seriously as you think he should.
Yeah.
And Tsukasa is very pragmatic
Yep.
about everything. And then Keiichiro is just the Boy Scout, and I love him for that.
He will do justice real well.
But above Keiichiro, coming in at number 4, we have Tsukasa. Tsukasa, again, is just a character that really I liked really early on. And especially given the past couple of episodes, or the past episode, I should say, her character development's been really good. We finally learn more of her backstory, probably more than any other Pat Ranger backstory at this point.
A little bit, yeah.
Because we know it's a very technical more, because like we know all their reasons for joining the police. We also know about Tsukasa's family.
Yeah, I think it's because it's like all at once, whereas like with Sakia especially, you sort of get his backstory in pieces that sort of fit together. And then with Keiichiro, we got his reason for joining, and then with Tsukasa, it's kind of all packed into one.
Yeah, like, Sakia could have a dozen siblings and we wouldn't know.
But yeah, Tsukasa, in the previous episode, got family established, got, like, training established, and got reason for wanting to join the cops established.
And then above Tsukasa, I have Umika. You know, whenever somebody else doesn't do a whole lot in the past 5 episodes, I tend to knock them down a bit. I never do that to Umika.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when she doesn't have a big role, she's still just really fun to watch.
Yep.
I'm always glad when Umika is on screen. Well, that might be a little strong. There are times where I'm not glad and Umika is on screen, but it's not because Umika is on screen.
Yeah.
It's because of a certain green-clad asshole who is also on screen. And then above Umika, I might be tipping my hand a little bit here because I have Kairi at number 2. We're close enough to the episodes that maybe like fully fall in love with him that I don't know if I can actually like divorce from that fully.
Yeah.
But we do actually see something kind of important about him in this episode. We got more angst for him last episode. He's becoming the kind of anti-hero that I really, really like.
Yeah.
The dark and tortured anti-hero who still manages to be, like, bubbly and goofy.
Yep.
He is not a noir, like, hard-boiled detective shithead. He's just a goofy guy with some real shit.
Yeah. He can be kind of a dick. But, like, you know, can't really argue with his results. He's very reckless as well, but because he understands that there are other people there who will take care of things.
And then at number 1, it's Noelle, because of course it is. Of course it's Noelle. I don't even need to justify that, but I will. Going into this, I was actually very worried when Noelle first appeared, because I knew that he was going to like show up and take away the spotlight for a long time, and I'd become so attached to the other 6 characters that I got like really worried that this was going to become the Kairi and Noelle show featuring Keiichiro, and then the rest were going to completely fall off. And that did not happen. Noelle started off by like endearing himself to most of the secondary Rangers. And outside of his like first appearance and this episode, he's probably interacted with the Reds like the least.
Yeah, honestly, it's the hardest for him to warm up to either of them.
And that's really smart on the part of the writers.
Yep.
Because it's good character development to spread the development around like as much as you can get away with. You don't want it to get to the point where it gets bogged down or get like a water margin situation where like no one gets development. You probably know better than I do about that, but
Yeah.
I should have said Romance of the Three Kingdoms because I did read most of that, and yeah, no one develops. Things just happen
Yep.
because there's too many characters. But also just from a selfish marketing perspective, like, you know everyone's going to buy the red toys and the X toys, so by having them interact with the secondary characters, you can sell more of the green, pink, blue, and yellow toys.
Well, I mean, maybe not so much on the green. We have seen N photographic evidence that goes against that.
No, I'm never going to be able to find that photo again. We can't reference it.
Rats. Okay.
That's the longest it's ever taken me to get through my rankings, but there they are.
Yep, so, we actually only have one in common.
Oh.
So, well, sorry, two in common.
Okay.
I forgot to look at the bottom. It's Sakia. Yeah, I mean...
Started at the bottom, and he's still at the bottom.
Yeah, he's not gotten much development, and the one episode he has gotten development was at the expense of Umika, so I'm still at least a little bit bitter about that.
Yeah, he does have the trend of only getting development in bad episodes.
Yeah. I mean, there was one time it was in a good episode.
Yeah, but like so far he's been like the focus of 3 episodes. 2 of them have been bad. And they're the only 2 bad episodes we've seen so far.
Alright, and then above him is Kaichiro, because as you've said, he hasn't done all that much in the past few episodes. Of course, I'm not quite going to be doing like the overall thoughts on each character, so this is more based on the recent episodes than yours is, but he's also been a little bit stubborn these past few episodes as well. Not that I blame him, of course, but it just so happens that he happened to go down a little bit because of that.
Yeah, and he's being stubborn in a way that's not like heroic or endearing like it was during the poison incident.
Yeah, that was cool. This, I do understand it for his character, and I don't mind it as a plot point, but in terms of just in setting, he's not been great about having to team up with the Lupins, for example.
Right.
And then, unlike you, unfortunately, Umika has gone down at least a little bit through no fault of her own, I feel, but it has been so long since we've had a good Umika episode, and while she is a delight, I am basing it more on sort of what they've done. I think on an overall performance, I'd still rank her pretty high, but yeah. I'm so sorry, Umika. If the last episode that was really about you was about you not doing a thing, and I hate that.
Yeah. That is understandable. I do feel sometimes like I'm cheating by keeping Umika so high. Because if I were being fair with basing this on the 5 episodes, like I normally do, she would have dropped quite a bit.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to keep her high up because I just really like her overall too much.
Umika's good. Alright, and then the real surprise upset is Noel at number 4.
Excuse me?
He's good, he's shaken up the show a lot, and I like that, but I don't think we've quite gotten into sort of his momentum, because a lot of his sort of role on the show thus far is sort of being like, he's there to kind of accent the other characters, and so far he's done that to, mainly 2 of the cast. Of course, he's endeared himself to the other characters as well, but
to wildly varying degrees of success.
Exactly. He had a Sakia episode which wasn't good, and then he had a Tuma episode which was really good. But overall, I definitely like sort of the intrigue he brings as well, because even now it's kind of difficult to tell if you can trust him, because he seems sincere in his goals, and it's understandable why he'd want to play both sides. But then we also have the moment of him going behind everyone's backs with the one scene where he talks to Kogure.
It's totally understandable to put Noel at that low of a ranking. In fact, like one of the main reasons he's at the top is because of stuff he hasn't done. So especially people aren't going to value that as much as I do. So,
but yeah, also Flip's amazing. He is, of course, absolutely stellar in just his introduction.
And just his choreography is really good.
In a show full of amazing choreography, he has choreography in fights and out of them, and it's always fantastic.
I retweeted that Toku gif of Pat X fighting off the Podamen in his introductory episode, and one of the replies to that tweet that I really liked was, when you get ratioed but still respond to every comment.
That's it. That's Noel.
Yeah, he's always getting into fights with way too many people, but he fights them one-on-one somehow.
He is probably one of the more skilled rangers other than Red. In part because of all the variety he has in fights, which is also good.
Yeah.
Having two different forms is honestly a really cool gimmick for this show.
And he also falls into the thing of he's a really cool character, but it doesn't feel like the writers or the character is trying to make him cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the writers are shoving things on because this is what kids like, and it doesn't feel like the character is trying to command everyone's respect that he hasn't earned. He just is cool.
Like, that's the important part, is, like, he does have a lot of charisma, and he does steal the show in a way, but that's just his personality, but also he just helps people a lot as well, and just has a general friendliness that actually fits really well in the show, and doesn't make him try to stand out too much. At least in terms of just development.
Alright.
Now,
really curious who your number one's going to be now.
So I had some difficulty going between number 2 and 3, but number 3 is Tuma, and that's because I really liked that episode. That might be a little bit because he's also sharing the spotlight with a really good villain team, but I thought it was a really good episode, which highlighted him for the first time in a while for me, and also he just synergized really well with Noel. But I also acknowledge that that was one episode, which is why Kyrie's at number 2, because while Kyrie hasn't... He's sort of shared an episode with Tsukasa, but I do really appreciate where he's sort of headed. We've gotten a bit more of his character, again, especially with that Tsukasa episode, which, while not entirely about him, still showed him off in a really good light. He's got that sort of aggro approach where, you know, like I said before, he's very reckless, and that fits in line with what we've seen in his backstory, but also he does know that he has other people to back him up, and even though he's, you know, like Kaiichiro, he's not really willing to work with the other team per se, but if the Pat Rangers won't destroy a collection piece, he doesn't mind too much if they maybe help out a little bit. But he will still just taunt them.
Yeah.
And then number 1 with Tsukasa, because, I don't know, I've really just been sort of appreciating her pragmatic approach, and similar to why I ranked Umika really high in earlier episodes, she does have that willingness to work with the other team that, you know, pretty much everyone else doesn't have, but she also does it in such a way that, like, fits her own team really well. Like here, when Umika does it, it's very much kind of her own thing. Like,
yeah, it's very much, alright, you all want to play nice? Well, fuck you, I'm playing nice.
Yeah. Red and Blue never really approve in the episodes where she does, or usually, like, there was the one episode with the teleporting dude, or the dude who teleported other people, where she, you know, gave the Pat Rangers advice. But yeah, in this instance, it has been, you know, moments like the previous episode where she is able to see some of the aspects of Red, which I just thought was really neat.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it too much, but I really like how Tsukasa and Kairi have a bit of an episode together.
They have been getting quite a few moments, actually. It's a little bit surprising because I wouldn't think their personalities would mesh that well, but there's that one scene with Kaiichiro in the hospital where I think that's the first time they spoke, like, for an extended period of time. Or just, had their own scene, I guess. But
really, I feel like in a just world, this show would have at least one episode for every, like, pairing of characters.
Yeah.
Because they all deserve to talk to each other and have that relationship explored.
And I've said this before, but God, I want to see Tuma and Sakia interact because they're like the least compatible of all characters.
I want to know what Kairi and Sakia would even talk about. Would it just be a half hour of them going through all the stuff in Sakia's room?
Yeah, Kairi would probably appreciate that room.
Yeah, it has a whole bunch of guy stuff in it.
Alright, so that's it for my list.
Alright, so I think we've gotten away from the curse of getting the exact same thing over and over again.
Yep, that was pretty different across the board.
Yeah, and I feel like we say this every time we do these lists. This is not a case where, like, the difference between the bottom and the top is, like, a huge difference. Like, what's the best way to explain this? Like, imagine that there are 100 spots, but we only use the top 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like there's 100 points of difference between, in my case, Noelle and Sakia. There's only 6.
Yeah. And
it is just really nice to have a series where all of the characters are so good that conceivably anyone could be on any, position given what 5 episodes we watch.
Yeah, it's probably never going to be Sakia at number 1, but...
Wasn't Sakia your number 1 for the first 5?
I think so, and going back I probably wouldn't repeat that, but, at the time...
Unfortunate.
Actually, wow, yeah, they managed to go 5 episodes without doing a Sakia and Umika scene. They didn't introduce that.
Yeah, I was terrified. I was upsettingly waiting for that to happen because I knew you had no patience for that.
God, was that episode 6? I swear, if it took one episode...
I think it was episode 7.
Okay, so it took 2 episodes.
Possibly episode 6? Well... Whatever, we can figure that out off camera. Yeah. Off radio. But for now, oh god, it's been 25 minutes. Yep. Let's talk about episode 25. I'll make you stronger than ever.
So, we resume the beatdown commenced in the last episode as Lyman emits an explosive wave that not only blows both the Pat Kaiser and X-Emperor apart, but also envelops the Lupin Rangers as well. We'd cut to Degranio laughing as he takes his seats. The Ganglar group discusses Lyman and how he snapped after both his partners died. Ghosh also casually mentions that when Lyman's serious, he could wipe out a world or two on his own. That's kind of a lot to just drop out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Earth has only existed for as long as it has because Lyman can't be bothered.
Yeah. Could just decimate a planet. So Degranio puts his hands together as though he's required to do it to him, and comments that it's gotten interesting, as he is wont to do. After we roll the intro, we return to Police HQ, where Jim gives the damage report. 2 districts were severely damaged after the attack, and we can see the Pat Rangers are injured enough to need a few bandages, which in Sentai means they were pretty heavily injured.
Yeah, I mean, they can withstand 10 tons of dynamite with no damage.
But to make matters worse, Lyman actually grew in size on his own. Ghosh wasn't there, and there were no signs of a collection piece activating. So he can just do that. For the time being, though, he's back down to normal size and hidden himself. And to make matters worse, the cops are twiddling their thumbs without Noelle, who hasn't contacted the group since the attack. We return to Jure, where we find Noelle in a bedroom that we haven't seen before. He is shirtless and his chest is pretty thickly bandaged, which in Sentai means he's on death's door. He looks around the room, painstakingly so, and finds that the only thing of interest in the room is a photo of Kairi and his brother. He doesn't even have any posters.
Yeah, I made that comment while we watched this episode, and I do think it's important because we have seen other rooms in this show. We've seen Tomo's room, we've seen Sakia's room, and they are packed with detail and character.
Yeah,
So it's not like the budget ran out for set dressing.
No.
Like, I think it's a very deliberate choice that Kairi has not decorated his room at all. I don't even think he has, like, a cover for the or a blanket for the bed. I think it's just sheets.
Yeah, at the very least it is just mostly white in there, so that's an important bit of detail.
Mm-hmm.
But as it so happens, Kairi comes in with tea, which he has to put down as he takes the picture from Noel's hands and tells him to stop snooping around. Noel mentions that he hopes they can find the collection soon so they can get everything back. Kairi, however, doubts he means that. He says that he gets the feeling that Noel doesn't trust him either, and that they can just continue using each other as he leaves the room. Elsewhere, Lyman asks Zamigo if he's considered his offer, as Zamigo takes a bite out of a chunk of ice. But Zamigo just laughs and says that he's not being honest, and theorizes that Lyman just wants him under his thumb because his collection piece is useless against him. Lyman gets mad and tries to slash him, but Zamigo dodges and stops his attacks before taking his Ganglar form. As the two begin fighting, Jim Carter is alerted of Lyman's presence and his fight against another Ganglar. Back at Jure, Kairi returns to his room, only to find that Noel is gone. Goody's freaking out since his friend's missing, but for once Kogure steps in as though he's entered the restaurant normally. He didn't, but it's nice that there was some motion on his parts. He's got no idea where Noel is, but he has found Lyman. We return to Lyman's battle with Zamigo, where the Pat Rangers have arrived to interfere. Sakia sees Zamigo and realizes that they've seen him before. Lyman tells the cops to fuck off, but they will not, and Kaisatsu change instead. The Pat Rangers open fire, but it does nothing, and Lyman knocks them over with a single claw beam. But when he turns back to continue his first fight, he can't see Zamigo anywhere. Somewhere else in the building, Zamigo tells the humans to take that idiot off his hands.
Please kill this idiot teen. I hate him so much.
He keeps trying to get me to help him, but no, I hate him.
He keeps alternating between telling me to fuck off and telling me to join his team. I can't stand him.
I hate him, I hate his bull, I hate Giwi.
I'm glad they're both dead.
The only one who I know by name, but still disrespect. But it seems unlikely that that's going to happen, because now Lyman's mad that the Pat Rangers interrupted him, so he starts actually trying to kick their ass now. And in a moment that's quite unfortunate for the Lupin Rangers, the Pat Rangers decide they need to go all out and beat him, and activate Biker. Lyman prepares for the impact, but takes a wheel to the face and explodes. But once the explosion clears, the Pat Rangers see Lyman safe glowing, and his body reforms. So, good for the Lupin Rangers. Lyman laughs and claw beams the Pat Rangers right into the commercial break. And when they return, they're all suddenly outside fighting. Not well, mind you, and anytime they get off shots, Lyman heals immediately.
I do want to make a comment on Lyman's choreography. Normally, the Ganglar choreography is less impressive than the Rangers, because the Rangers have more, like, what do I want to say?
Flexibility.
Flexibility. They can do more with their costumes. I don't know if it's the Lyman costume is, like, more lightweight and maneuverable, or if the actor was just really, really good. But there's a lot of personality and character in Lyman's fighting, and it's not like the cool, collected character that normally shows up.
Yeah. it might actually be the weight of the costume instead of flexibility, because, like, his style is very ruthless, and he might just, like, really lean into some of the shots.
He destroyed his back shooting these scenes.
This poor man. So, another claw beam, and the Pat Rangers go down again, but before Lyman can do any more damage, he gets shot from the side. Everybody looks over to see Noel climbing a nearby stairway in his Phantom Thief outfit. Sango warns Noel of Lyman's collection ability, and Noel acknowledges that, but he Kaito changes anyway. And while X normally handles himself well in a fight, he's still gravely injured. And it's Lyman we're talking about. He could probably fight off X in perfect condition. But after some struggling, X manages to pin him down and put some kind of USB device in his PDA safe unlocking, whatever it is.
A lot of tech bits. A lot of random tech bits are happening right now.
But his unlocker once again enters 110, which gives him an error. Lyman taunts X before beating him down, ending with a charge attack that sends X flying. That is probably my favorite choreographed bit from Lyman. X then hits the stairway and rolls down as he de-transforms. It looks incredibly painful. Normally X does not take this kind of beating, but man, he's not been having a good time in this episode.
Everyone is getting the shit kicked out of them this episode.
Above, Lyman turns around just in time to see the Pat Rangers get back on their feet. As we hear the sound of the Pat Rangers fucking dying, a very injured Noel starts looking over his PDA thing. The Phantom Thieves arrive on the scene and rush over to Noel as his USB device brings up a screen. After some analysis, Noel finally finds the secret to the status gold safes. Their combinations are actually 6 digits long, not just 3. In order to input their combinations, 2 Versus vehicles need to be attached at the same time. Blue remarks that he fought Lyman on his own just to find that, and Red asks why. Noel tells him that he has something in common with the 3 of them. He also has someone he wants to bring back. First time we're hearing that.
Yeah, you want to share with the rest of the class, Noel?
No. It would give him a reason to be a Phantom Thief as well as a cop, so, you know, at face value, makes sense. Noel asks Red if he believes in him now, but Red just gets up and says he can't believe he asked him that. But he believes that Noel is willing to risk it all, so he'll believe in him. As a Phantom Thief, at least. If you're in a cop outfit, no. That whole changing ability, I don't trust it.
One of these forms always lies, and the other always tells the truth.
Said the lying form. They're actually both liars. Noel gives a merci, and we cut over to the Pat Rangers for a moment as they get their ass kicked. Then we cut back, and Noel has trouble walking. The other 3 tell him to stay back and rest, and he informs them of Lyman's safe power. Red volunteers to be the decoy, while Yellow and Blue will enter the combination. And it turns out they're springing into action just in time as yet another claw beam slashes into the Pat Rangers. But this time the attack de-transforms all 3 of them. As the cops struggle to even stay conscious, Lyman prepares to finish them off, only to be interrupted by more gunfire. He looks to the top of the staircase behind him, where the Phantom Thieves are standing. And since they were just at the bottom of the stairs, they had to have gone around the action to make their cool entrance. Which, I mean, I wouldn't put that past them, but they would have had to do that really quickly this time. Anyway, they Kaito change, and after a commercial break, they're just suddenly in front of Lyman. I know I've pointed that out a lot lately, but the commercial breaks have been really jarring these past few episodes. But anyway, if you thought the Lupin Rangers were going to be more effective against Lyman, think again. Red gets stomped, literally. Blue and Yellow can't attach their Versus vehicles, and Lyman reminds us all that he can use missiles, just whenever he wants. not a safe power or anything. He just has that as another natural ability.
Yeah, I remember people being slightly upset about how, like, wrecked the Pat Rangers were in this episode because they felt that, like, they were being buried to push the Lupin Rangers, but I think it's clear that the message is that both teams cannot stand against Lyman on their own.
Yeah, no, he kicks their ass as well. The Lupin Rangers don't look great.
If anything, the Lupin Rangers get taken out quicker.
Yeah, the Pat Rangers took quite a few blows. And yeah, they de-transform, but the thing is, in terms of like the writing of the show, they actually have that liberty. Because if the Lupin Rangers ever de-transform in the middle of a fight, well, that's their secret identities.
No, they have disguises underneath their disguises.
Sometimes. Then other times you have like Umika, who had to use bits of her costume in that one episode, or Tuma, who was on a boat without his usual disguise. But yeah, they did last quite a while. The Lupin Rangers kind of just got thrashed immediately. The Pat Rangers are better at taking hits, though, is the thing. So, Lyman informs Red, the one person who's still conscious at the moment, that he's caught on to what they're trying to do. And also he's choking Red. Though, Red does manage to shake Lyman off and activate Scissors. The boomerang doesn't help at all, and the shield only serves to get Red slammed against a car, which of course explodes after a couple of attacks from Lyman.
We found the one Gangler who knows what a boomerang is.
He knows what a boomerang is, or maybe he doesn't, I don't know, he doesn't really turn around, he just doesn't care. Maybe this taught him what a boomerang was, and he was just thoroughly unimpressed. As Red continues fighting a losing battle, the cops stagger upstairs, and Tsukasa sees Red starting to lose ground, and decides that they're going to give Red support. Kaiichiro objects, of course, but their priority is defeating Lyman. Sakia reasons that if the Lupin Rangers accomplish their goal, that will mean Lyman can no longer heal himself. Kaiichiro begrudgingly transforms alongside his partners, and the Pat Rangers cover Red just as he's knocked over. The battle still doesn't go well. Like, right at the start, Lyman uses Nigu as a human shield, and Saika just shoots him repeatedly.
I forgot about that.
So if you're wondering how the power of teamwork's going over, not great. But Kaiichiro eventually manages to grapple Lyman's leg, even though Lyman kinda crushes his face just a little bit in the process. It looked really painful, sparks were flying. But while Lyman's busy, Blue and Yellow grapple his arms, and though Lyman almost drags them to the ground, Nigu and Sangu reinforce the Lupin's hold. Red readies his Versus vehicle and the Cyclone and charges in, only to find Lyman has yet another trick up his sleeve. This guy can also grow 2 more arms. Remember Arsène Lupin? The guy who didn't benefit much at all from having 4 arms?
It almost carries the day for Lyman, because Lyman's not a fuck-up.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair how Lyman has so many useful abilities. He has that on top of everything else, including just sheer strength with just the average amount of arms.
This fight is like, it's almost exhausting with just how unstoppable Lyman feels for most of it.
Yeah, it's a good exhausting, I think.
Yeah.
But Red is caught by surprise, and the Cyclone is tossed into the air. For a moment, everyone looks on as their last hope is tossed away, only for X to leap up and grab it. Kaiichiro readjusts himself to restrain some of Lyman's other arms, as Red and X slam their Versus vehicle onto Lyman's safe and open it. 1, 1, 0, 0, 3, 0. This time, the safe opens, and Red grabs the Doctor Doctor. Hey, I actually know that song reference this time. Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I've been beaten up by Lyman so many times, I can't feel any part of my body anymore. I've got a bad case of Lyman breaking literally every bone I own. All of them.
and several that I don't. My children are going to be born with broken bones because of this Ganglar.
And for once, Red, Ichigo, and X actually kick Lyman over before they're attacked again. Red and X high-five, which we have to get a double shot of. Just a double take. And Lyman finds himself without a collection piece. And facing down a full Sentai team, every member of which is mad at him for his previous beatdowns. But of course, we can't forget that this is Lyman we're talking about, and he can still grow in size without Gauche around. So he does. And now there's a giant four-armed gangler that's got plenty of good fighting moves he can use.
I do love that he doesn't get taken out.
Yep.
In normal form.
Nope, he just grows.
We're going to the big fight on my terms.
But good Striker wanders in, happy to see Noel in good health. Acceptable health, not dead
Happy to
health.
happy to see Noel did not die.
Ichigo and Red both grab Good Striker, wanting to be the ones to end the fight. But as their respective groups hold them back, Good Striker suggests just putting them all together, which is a thing he can do. Red then launches Good Striker, and every Zord follows behind him. They all come together to form the Good Cool Kaiser VSX. That name is excellent. I
do want to talk about this name. Good Cool Kaiser is most likely a mistranslation. They use the English word cool and the German word Kaiser, but the word they use in the middle is pronounced kuru, which could be the English word cool, but it's most likely the Japanese word kuru, which translates to feeling.
Yeah.
Because Good Striker always says he has a good feeling.
It would make sense, but you know what? I love Good Cool Kaiser.
I know. I normally am okay with mistranslations like this, but good feeling seems like too important.
Mm-hmm. So, Yellow and Blue are in one cockpit, Sango and Nigo are in another, and in the main cockpit we see Good Striker and a crown pop up in the center, surrounded by Red, Ichigo, and X. Ichigo and Red immediately start arguing, and Goody decides to fix the situation by switching Ichigo out with a Sangu, who is far more reasonable.
I love this bit so much.
Oh god. Anytime Kaishiro ends up screaming and falling is a good time.
I'm glad that Sango got to be in the main cockpit because she's the only one that's spoken to Red and can tolerate him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could put Nigu up there, but no.
Sango makes more sense.
Yep.
And I really like that when we see Keishiro, he's fallen out of the chair, so the implication is that he wasn't just on, like, an elevator ride, he was just in free fall. Fell down to wherever the hell that cockpit is.
Yep. But yeah, in the future it will probably be Red and Ichigo, but it's nice that Sango gets a moment. Good on you. Good on you, Tsukasa.
I'm so glad that these writers came to the point of like, well, I just don't really think Red and Ichigo would be working together this closely at this point. Alright, fine, just kick Ichigo out of the cockpit.
Yep, problem solved.
We can do that.
That's a thing Good Striker can do. It's his robot. Outside the robot, Lyman declares that he doesn't care if the Rangers are big now. He's still like Wario in that he is going to win. And then he starts launching missiles. VSX evades the missiles and keeps a constant Gatling fire going. Then the VSX leaps into an obviously CGI scene as they do tricks far too fancy for the normal suits to handle. Distracting changes in visuals aside, this is probably some of the best choreography we've seen in a big fight thus far, barring some of the earlier special moves.
That's sort of the thing with the big fights, is that all the best choreography comes from the CG scenes, because you just can't do a whole lot with those big rubber suits.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame.
I don't want to, come down on the actors because they're doing their best. It's not their fault.
Yeah,
but
it's a limitation.
I do wish the designers could maybe come up with some less blocky mecha designs.
Yeah. Or if you're going to switch to CG, maybe put a little more money in that, because, again, it is a little bit jarring.
Yeah, or just not make the suit. Just do it all CG.
Yeah, exactly.
That might be more expensive, actually, but...
Yeah, that's why I said put money into it, because that CG didn't look great, especially if you actually looked at the background.
Yeah. Unfortunate.
But anyway, once they've properly thrashed Lyman, the Rangers all prepare their final special move, the Good Cool Kaiser Vehicle Rush Strike, in which the VSX Kaiser just launches every vehicle it has on it at Lyman. Lyman is trampled by cars and planes and finally explodes. And thankfully Ghosh doesn't come in and make him even bigger. And the main...
Yeah, hold on, he didn't get a second chance. It would have been super anticlimactic, but yeah, he didn't go just like, alright, well, not bothering with you.
He had his own built-in second chance, why should I bother?
You're now relegated to the rights of Roulette Frog and Pinguino.
Yep. Ghosh is just really lazy that day.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the biggest robot, like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
In the main cockpit, Red and Sangu trip over each other's eternal adieu and mission completes, because it is really awkward when you both have completely different victory lines.
I do like that they try to get Sango to say an eternal adieu with them. Come on, Ichigo's not gonna know, just say it.
But with the battle complete, Goody decides to split before the Lupin Rangers and Pat Rangers start to fight again. And so he does. Back in Hell, Degranio is quite disappointed at Lyman's defeat. Ghosh is disappointed as well, but Destra is relieved that Degranio's successor won't be someone as rude as Lyman. But Degranio gets up. The failures before were one thing, but now that the Rangers have shown they can defeat someone like Lyman, he's decided he needs to, and I quote, reconsider some things, end quote. And then he leaves, ominously.
I must do something I never thought I could bring myself to do. I must ask for Pinguino's help. Pinguino died like 2 weeks ago.
What?
Oh good, but damn it.
He disappoints me even in death. Back at Jour, Kyrie is dragging Noel out of the restaurant. Noel begs the group to let him stay, because while he does have his own place, it gets so lonely. He then backflips up onto his feet and asks Tuma to come over, but Tuma refuses before he even completes his request. He then tries Umika, who tells him to ask one of the cops instead. Also, I loved the smile she gives after saying that.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most get out right now smile I think I've ever seen in my life. And then Kyrie doesn't even let Noel get past his name. Noel then says that he's part of the Phantom Thieves, but the group cuts him off and says that is true. Except they don't help each other more than necessary. Which is the thing Umika says, and I think she's the one most qualified to make that statement, considering, Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, this is a necessary situation. So, all three of the Jour trio team up to push Noel out the door, even as Noel tries to hang on by a chair. And that's the end of the episode.
God, what a good episode.
It's amazing.
So, let's start by talking about Lyman.
God, what a good villain.
What a threat. What a nightmare.
I know. I love the way they did this episode, which is almost entirely Lyman just beating up both teams.
Yeah. And the choreography is a lot more chaotic during the three-way fights.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope it's not too much of a spoiler to say that anytime the two teams work together like this, the fights are just amazing.
Yep.
They're like really well coordinated. There's so much character in, every like punch and kick. And here's my inner 12-year-old coming out. It's just really cool to see all three of the major Rangers kick Lyman at once.
Yep.
See the two Reds and X kick him like that. That was really cool.
Yeah. I also do think that the pacing of the episode is really good because, like you said, it gets sort of tiring by the end just in how much damage both teams have taken. The pacing itself is exhausting, just as the Rangers are exhausted from having been beaten to a pulp. The Pat Rangers especially just take such a beating this episode.
Yeah, it's always hard to talk about pacing because I feel like the best pacing doesn't really draw attention to itself.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of this fight and the way it escalates and continues, it's really good.
Yeah, but I also appreciate how, this is, of course, the episode that shows off how strong the two teams can be when they work together. Well, two teams in X, who's sort of in both and neither at the same time. But, yeah. So, it starts with both of them acting separately, and then initially when they're trying to work together, it doesn't go over great because everybody's so tired by that point. But then once they finally get the advantage, they actually pretty much stay at the top, because they manage to get his collection piece, kick him over, and then he does grow, so they don't get an immediate victory over him, but that also helps in that he doesn't take away a victory by growing after an explicit defeat. It's like he's trying to get the momentum back, but then they counter that by making an even bigger mech than they normally make. And then they pretty much dominate the mech fight. Lyman still looks strong because he's able to defend himself pretty well, but the VSX doesn't really lose ground.
It's amazing how interesting they can make such a simple, wrought out trope as teamwork is good just by not really talking about it explicitly, just letting it come out during incidental dialogue and the fight scenes.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much always how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to work well together with other people is a theme that appears a lot. It's just when you say, we're using the power of friendship or something like that without actually proving it, then it's kind of not really great.
Let's show this creep the real superpower of teamwork!
God, I adore that line.
But yeah, even when 6 of them are working together, they still can't quite take out Lyman. They really do need all 7. But then when all 7 works, they're impossible to stop, much like the Chaos Emeralds. I've fallen down a rabbit hole. I don't like this.
If it wasn't for the fact that there are 2 Reds, we might almost be able to line them up with the Chaos Emeralds. But anyway. It also helps that the second phase they were in a robot, which doesn't require as much movement from them. They got to rest for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Except Ichigo.
Yeah. Best joke in the whole show. I do want to mention one thing about that robot. You said something about it switching to CG. There's no suit for the good-feeling Kaiser VSX.
Oh, really? So that's...
It's all CG. Yeah, the renders of it, I think, are actually pretty good. When it's not moving, it looks good. But when they have to animate it, I think they use a lower quality model.
They might, yeah. I mainly noticed Lyman in the background, but yeah, I didn't realize that... Actually, no, I can kind of see that, thinking back. It is a lot of parts, and should mention, the VSX also has 4 arms, sort of.
Oh yeah, it has... Oh yeah, the 2 train arms, and then the 2 Kaito arms.
Yeah.
And the trigger machines are on the feet. But yeah... VSX is what's known in the American fandom as an Ultra Zord, where they just use every single Zord they have and just start slapping things together.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has a specific name in Japanese, but I'm going to keep calling it an Ultra Zord. And they don't tend to get a whole lot of use. This one has a plot reason for it. Or not plot, but a story reason for it.
Yeah, they just don't work together well enough
Very
to actually
often.
use it pretty much ever.
Yeah, so they probably didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on a suit that they weren't going to use very often.
Yeah.
It might have just been cheaper to render it in CG. But I do actually like the Good Feeling Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people complain about it. It's mostly the toy version of it because the toy is not great.
I mean, you have that much plastic, and there's no real way it could be good, could it?
Yeah, because it's 12 things jammed together, and the biggest problem apparently is that like the trigger machines don't attach to the feet properly, and they keep popping off very easily, and that's annoying. Like not having the articulation opposing you want, like, come on, look at this thing. But when it doesn't even like stick together the way it's supposed to, I can see you getting upset about that. But we're not reviewing the toys.
Yep, nope. I mean, look, if I had easy access to them, maybe, but
Yeah. Do you think we don't want these toys?
I'm not going to pretend I'm above, wanting a decent quality toy of these. But yeah, it's not relevant.
All right. I feel like there's not a whole lot to talk about character development wise because this is a lot of payoff.
Yeah.
It's more fun to talk about the setups and like the developments you can't clearly see.
Mm-hmm.
In this, the most subtle character development is Kyrie's room, and we already made jokes about that.
Yeah, but it is
and
important.
how unsubtle it is. But yeah, this is just like a really, really watchable episode.
It's so good, and honestly, like, I feel like they should have excuses to split up Sentai teams more often because, God, halfway through the show, and this is just such a satisfying episode because the teams are normally apart, it's so much cooler when they come together like this.
Yeah, we don't really have a frame of reference for what normal Sentai feels like, but I get the feeling it's going to be like we can never watch a normal Sentai show. We'll have to watch those like super obscure off-brand Sentais that did this before mainline Sentai did.
Mm-hmm. Why are the teams always working together? That means not as many of them can actually get screen time. The irony of the whole thing. Because like having only 3 teams or 3 members to like the important part of a fight actually really helps flesh them out.
So that'll be it for this episode, unless you have predictions.
Well, there is the one thing with Degranio. So, the thing I'm hoping for, and the thing, I joked about when we actually watched it is, I want Degranio to get into the action a little bit more. Because that ending line where he's just like, well, I've got to reconsider some things. Just gonna go in there and kick some ass, but it probably won't be that. I'm thinking it's probably going to be more along the lines of he's going to change his goal from whoever, takes over the human world gets my position to something along the lines of whoever kills one of the teams gets my position.
Mm-hmm. I need to make this explicit now. You always had to fight them, but now I'm making it so, like, make that your priority.
Yeah, I feel that's what they're going to go for, because, to be fair, everyone's disappointed him thus far, and now he knows that there's somebody who can threaten Ganglars if they actually bother working together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wouldn't it be great if, like, at the end of next episode, though, like, Noel just goes home and he opens the door and Degranio's sitting on his couch?
Sup, fucker?
He just immediately kills him and then hark us the credits.
I heard you're the train guy. Goodbye.
The only train I'm familiar with is the pain train. And he taps his shoulder. But we can hope that probably won't happen.
Probably
not that I've seen the next few episodes and can tell definitely whether or not that happens.
Noel probably does not fucking die immediately. Though, in fairness, we won't know for a few episodes, will we?
Right, because next episode is not going to be covering episode 26. It is going to be covering all of the, I guess, supplementary materials, you could call it. There were 2, I think, TV miniseries. Another Patren 2 and Ultimate Weird Combination. And we're also covering the movie.
So yeah, that'll probably be a fairly long episode overall. We're basically going... like, since we're busy these next few weeks anyway, we're just going to be watching these in chunks, and I'll be trying to get through each of them sort of at a normal rate, and then we're just going to put them all together in a single episode.
Yeah, we might break it up so that the movie gets its own episode, but it's only a half hour, so I don't know if we'll have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if we do need to break the episode up, that would make the most sense.
Yeah.
To shunt it off on its own.
The two miniseries, they both seem to be two-parters, so they might be in their own episode, but, eventually you'll know how this shakes out.
Yeah, they are two-parters, but the two parts are each like 12 or 13 minutes long, so they come up to a normal episode length.
Yeah.
That will do it for this episode. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. Fefner is at Fefner Masamune. If you want to send us an email, we are LupinRecap vs PatReview@gmail.com. And we will see you in the next episode.
Adieu.